there we go. What we're going to do is we're going to extend the travel of the throttle so that when we put on our SHA 15, it's going to have enough travel so that it can open it up to wide open throttle. If you're unsure or you've tried yours out and it doesn't make it, this is how you're going to modify it. First thing you want to do is you want to check the travel of the screws. But first I think I'll show you what screw is what. A lot of people aren't sure. So. Yeah, there we go. This screw up here in the cursor, that's the one for your throttle. The next one here is the one for the decompressor. That's just holds the end of the cable. Same thing with the cursor one up here for the throttle. This nut and the screw down here, and the lock nut and the screw, that is for the actual cutout for the travel of the throttle twist. And this that takes the flathead screwdriver is the screw that actually holds the grip of the assembly to the handlebars. And this is your adjuster for your decompressor. And this is the adjuster for the brake. Pointing out the obvious now. So, what we're going to do, we're going to take off of this limiter screw and take the tube out once we determine if there's enough length. To determine if there's enough length, you have to twist the throttle all the way open, and you want to do this without your cables attached. When it's all the way open, the cursor itself should come right to the end of this housing. The cursor can't travel all the way to the end of the housing. You will not get approximately 15 millimeters. If you're not sure, push it all the way back to 0. And 0 is you push decompressor portion in and hold it in, and then the throttle cursor you push straight up against it, and that is 0. So you take your pencil and you mark that spot. Now you give her a full twist and you mark that spot, and where I'm marking is approximately the middle of the housing that the throttle screw goes into. And then we take our calipers and we measure that distance. This one at the moment is giving me a little bit more than 13, I'll say 13.2 millimeters. And that's not going to be opening my SHA 15. It'll open up a 13 millimeter card. So we need to extend the length of this. So what we have to do first before we extend the length is we undo this bottom screw and put that in a safe place. Now we can pull the tube off, give it a bit of a rotation, and leave the cursor behind for now. Now, this slot here, going straight across, that is what that little limiter screw that holds her in travels in. Sometimes that's not long enough. And the other times, it's the actual cursor slot that isn't long enough. So we're going to have to determine which one is which one is not right. So we take our cursor out and put the tube in all the way. Now, because we want this cursor to travel all the way to the end of the housing, we have to make sure that that crosscut slot goes all the way to the end of the housing, plus about a millimeter, which will make up for the distance between the end of this in the center of that screw. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to mark on the tube approximately a millimeter past the end of the housing. Once you've done that, you take your Dremel and you take a file, and you want this slot to continue in the direction that it's already heading, and you just have to file it a bit like that. And yes, it's another one of these things that's a pain in the bum, because you're filing at a funny angle. The saving grace is the metal's pretty soft. And of course, if I was using a Dremel, I'd be done by now, but you know. I somehow take that very demented pleasure of doing everything by hand. So, anyhow, once you've got that opened all the way to your line, you'll know that she will give you full travel on the cursor. So that's the first part of the fight. You might find that the edge of this is a little bit rough. So just deburr it a little bit. The cursor will thank you when it travels back and forth. And take out any obvious burrs that you see, or anywhere that you know is going to give the cursor a bit of hassle. Okay, now next what we want to do is slide the cursor back into its home. And then we can just rotate this in to its position. And if you crank it all the way back, you'll see that now your lovely little cursor can reach all the way to the end. Now that you've got your cursor at the end, what you want to do is sharpen your pencil. You can go through this hole and make a mark on this housing. And when you pull her out, you can see by the mark if it's long enough. It's not long enough. You have to take your round file and open this up just a little bit more until you reach your mark. Thank God for softer metal. While you have her apart, obviously, you want to clean all of that stuff. And you just slide her all together. Cursor in her slot. Oh, and she moved all so sweet now. Put the screw back in. Now, this screw, you don't want it to be the one that's holding the housing to the handlebars. So when you do it up, back off the lock nut. You screw it in till it's touching, and then you back it off. A full turn will do it. And then tighten up that lock nut. And I'll even cheat and I'll use needle nose pliers, because most people will do that instead of catching the right right wrench. But it doesn't have to be super tight. It just has to be snug. And then of course put your throttle back in the position where it wants to live. And tighten up. Just screw the holder in. Because you're done. Now this guy will rotate to give you wide open throttle for 15 millimeters. And also keep the decompressor function. If you're going to be going for a carb even larger, even bigger than 15 millimeter, if you go without the decompressor on there anymore, just don't reattach her. And the throttle will be able to give you 19 millimeters. Actually, this one here is going to be giving 22 millimeters. But I don't usually like to put anything that big on the motors I'm working on. I usually stick around the 50 cc's. I love the AV7s, and about 17.5 millimeter PHBG is about as big as you really want to go. Anyway, that's enough from me.